of free software, all those amazing open source apps. Let's learn how to install, remove, and update apps in Ubuntu. Alright, welcome back guys. We're going to get into one of the best parts about Linux, those thousands upon thousands of open source applications. So here we go. Let's go ahead and click on the Ubuntu Software Center. Alright, this is the main graphical way that you're going to install software onto your PC. Onto your desktop, your laptop, any of these applications are now available, and you can install them straight from Ubuntu Software. So let me just give you a quick rundown of the layout, and then we'll start installing applications. At the top here, you'll see the featured applications, which is usually a slideshow of different things highlighted by Ubuntu. And below that, they have taken all of the apps and categorized them so you can better search graphically with the mouse for what kinds of applications you'd like to install. So if you'd like to install games, or apps for graphics and photography, productivity for office software, including even add-ons, which we'll go about more in a later video, so that you can customize and alter the behavior of the Ubuntu GNOME desktop. You can click the down arrow here and there will be a few more options for things like developer tools, education and science, and various utilities. So if you are using Ubuntu for development, all of your developer tools will be highlighted down there. And then finally, the editors pick some of these special applications that the editors have liked, and they've picked them. Editors picks. There you go. So Ubuntu software is divided mainly into three areas: all applications, installed applications. So these are all of the programs and apps that are installed on your PC locally. And you could scroll down here and you could, if you wanted to look at them, you could left click on them. And it will bring you to the app page in the Software Center, where you can look at things like thumbnails of the application. You can launch it straight from the Software Center. You can remove the application. And you can also see some important details like the version of the application. This is going to be very important as you progress through your time using Linux, Ubuntu, any kind of open source platform, because things are rapidly in development. These things are constantly changing and improving. And because of that, newer versions always get me excited because they mean bigger and better programs with improved stability, reliability, new features. I absolutely love it. So it helps to pay attention to which version you're running, because some versions, some distributions of Linux run older versions of these applications. And especially if you use these for productivity, right now this is a game, but if you use an app for productivity and it's running an older version of that app, then you're going to experience some regressions and possibly not have a feature available that you're used to in the modern current version of that app. Another big part in the details you'll want to pay attention to is the source. So in this day and age, there are a few main sources by which you can get applications from. In this case, it's being stored on the Ubuntu servers in a repository for this particular version of Ubuntu. And I'll explain that in a little more detail in just a moment. And the last thing that you're going to see are the reviews. So you see the reviews on it, and you can write a review, and you can say the good, the bad, the ugly, everything in between. And if you wanted to go to the developer website, there's a button there that you can click on, and that will send you straight to the developing website. So you can learn more about it. If you do like to develop and check out the source code and contribute to apps like these, websites like these can become super helpful because they allow you to do things like browse the source code, and you can see and learn about how this application is made. So that's, of course, one of the greatest benefits to Ubuntu and open source operating systems like Linux, is that all of these applications you can browse the source code for, and you can figure out how they work for the purposes of either learning how to develop software or how to make a better version or make your own version, or even contribute to a current project that's out there. One of the great things about open source software is that it's made by you, the user. It's a community of people who are working to make software awesome. So, and finally going back, and we will look at the updates. Now the updates is going to show you where if you have a currently installed application and there's a newer version that's available for it, you can hit refresh up here at the top and it's going to look for new updates. This could take a while. No, it usually takes maybe no longer than 60 to 90 seconds. Yeah, in this case even less. Right now I don't have any updates, so it's saying the software is up to date. Yay! And finally, I'm just going to show you the last part at the top here, an option to sign into the Snap Store or sign into Ubuntu One. What this allows you to do is you can write reviews on the application. So if you wanted to, say, download Clementine, listen to music and find out you really liked it, or you find out you didn't like it at all, or in this case, not working. So someone wrote in May, the software doesn't even open. And you want to tell people about it. Well, you have to create an account in order to send reviews, so that's what these are primarily for. And the last button, which is super helpful, is the search button. So clicking that will open up a search field, and you can type the application that you're looking for. So if you want to download Steam in order to play all of those prodigious games that are out there that are compatible with Linux, and there's quite a few of them nowadays, and they're growing. You press Steam and press enter, and you can scroll down and you can go see that Steam installer is right there, and that's the particular app that you would install in order to set up Steam on Ubuntu and play all those games. So when you know the application that you're searching for, this search window is very helpful. In fact, you wouldn't even have to press the search button out of the get-go. You can start to search for programs without pressing this button, and when you start typing on your keyboard, it's going to start listing the results automatically. Okay, so let's install something. So I brought this up in the first video, but I'm going to go into this more detailed now. So let's say I want to install a different video player. I'm going to click on Audio and Video. And VLC is a very popular player, so I'm going to left click on that, and I can simply click Install. And it's going to, during every install and removal for security purposes, it's going to ask that you put in your password. And this is in order to protect your operating system from any unauthorized installation or things being installed without your consent. So it's very helpful in order to protect your system. So I'm going to type in my password. I can either press enter on the keyboard or click authenticate. Either of those work. And you'll notice that it's installing. And there's a progress bar up at the top here. And once it gets to the far right, it will be completed. And we'll see how it goes. Okay, and it's all done. So once it's all done, I can launch it from here. Or if I click on Activities and I search for the program and press the enter key, well, guess what? Now it opens. So you can do this with any program that's out there. You can also sort by different subcategories if you want. So if you want to go to audio creation and editing, it will filter those out. Same with music players. And this is available for every category. So if I went back and wanted to search for graphics, and I want to search for any 3D graphics programs, I can now filter exclusively to look for that. Okay, so it seemed pretty easy, right? Absolutely. So if you wanted to uninstall a program, in this case I'm going to demonstrate by uninstalling GIMP, the GNU image manipulation program. And this is kind of the Linuxy version of Photoshop. So what I'm going to do is click on the remove button, and it's going to ask, are you sure you want to remove? And I click remove. Again, I type in my password and press the enter key to authenticate. And it's done. You'll find that because many of these programs are of a small file size, the download, install, and removal of them are very quick. And it doesn't take long at all in order to download and install or remove applications. So here's one thing I do want to point out though. So in this case, this program is mainly called GIMP. It's what people know it by. There's an option here to install it straight from the Ubuntu servers. This is what's called a native application. I'm going to show you the other type of application format or program format that you'll often find here in the Ubuntu software. So if I search for GIMP, it's going to search the Software Center and it's going to come up with a few results here. So what you're seeing now, even though I've searched for GIMP, it's coming up with multiple listings. In this case, these two seem almost identical. So if I click on one, this was the one I previously just installed, and I know that because of the version number, and I know that because of the source. But if I went back, and I went to this top one here, and it opens up the page for this app, and I scroll down, you see the version number is different. This one's a little newer, and the source is the Snap Store. Now, what snaps are is these are containerized versions of these applications. What that means is this. These are self-contained versions of these applications, and it's a different way of installing software. I'm going to tell you what this means on the practical end and what it means on the technical end. What this means on the practical end, if you install something from the Snap Store as a source, this is going to be automatically updated to the newest version of the application. So if GIMP comes out with a new version of their software, say version 2.10.14 or 2.10.16, then that's going to automatically update. As to where with this other one here, which is a native application, unless there's a critical error or something serious in the program that needs to be fixed, this is not going to update unless you update your version of Ubuntu to the latest version. So with each release, in this case, if with every 6-month release of Ubuntu, they update the native applications. Let's say this release of Ubuntu just came out, you would have to wait 6 months in order to get the newer versions of this. The downside to the Snap Store is that, well, there's two things. One, right at present, it takes longer for them to run or to load. And two, they don't always work as well as their native app counterparts. There are issues that come up, performance issues or glitches that are coming up because this is a fairly new package format. It's glitchy. It's not super stable at the moment. Many programs are, and it's getting better and better, but it's not, in my opinion, as good as installing native applications just yet. And for that reason, I tend to stay away from Snap apps or any containerized apps. That's just me at this moment. Things will likely get better even after the release of this video, so don't just take my word for it. Give it a try for yourself. If you like it, great. If you don't like it, you can remove them very easily, so there's no problem either way. And I'll show you what I mean. So I'm going to install the app straight from the Snap Store instead of as a native app from the Universal repository. And you can install multiple apps at once. You don't have to wait for this. So while this is going, I'm going to hit back. I'm going to click on the GIMP version that's stored in the Universal archives and in the repositories. And I'm going to click install, type in my password, press enter, and I'm going to let them both install. So now this one is done. You can see while an application is being installed, you'll see a little green number appear up here at the top. And when you left click the installed tab, you'll see that there's a progress bar right here next to GIMP, and it's showing that it's installing. Once this reaches the end, then it'll be ready to go. And you can see it's taking a little bit longer to install because it's a bigger file. Being a containerized file for the technical user means that it has all of the dependencies and all of the required code needed in one single package without needing to download any additional libraries or other files to make the program work. So now they're both installed. So when I go to the activities overview and I type in GIMP, there are two instances that are going to appear. And because they seem identical, it's hard to tell which one is which. So I'm going to left click one of them and see which one I get, what comes up. Okay, so that loaded pretty quickly. And so I'm assuming this is the native application. And I will know by clicking on About Yeah, so this is the older version that's on there. So if I was to close this, and if I was to type GIMP again and open up the second one this time, you'll see how it's taking considerably longer and it's slower to load. But once it's up and running, these virtually look identical. So you wouldn't be able to notice much of a difference with most of these programs. So that's one of the benefits, is that they're virtually identical, which they should be because they're the same program. They're just being packaged differently. And that's an important distinction to make. So those are the differences there between native apps and Snap applications. The other way to acquire apps that I'm going to show you is called appimages. And an app image is like an ISO image file that contains the application inside of it. So it's Linux apps that run anywhere. Effectively, the benefit to this is that you can download this app image and it'll run on any Linux distribution without you needing to install any dependencies or extra libraries to run it. You can just download the app, set it as an executable, and run it straight from that particular file. So I'm going to use one of my favorite video editors as an example. So Kdenlive is what I edit all of my videos with, and they do give you the option of downloading their program. It's a Linux-based program, and you can download it in an app image format. So in this case, when I click on app image and I go to release, and I go and download their latest release here, I click on the app image and I go to save file. And it's going to download the app image. And good. So once it's downloaded, I'm going to open it up in my file browser. And I can right click on this. Now if I try to open it right here, it's not going to do anything. Because it's not set to run as an executable. So I can't run it. What I do to change that is very simple. I right click on this and go to Properties. I go to the Permissions tab. And I left click on Allow Executing File as a Program. Now it's good to go. Now I hit the Close button. I can right click, I can click Run, and there you go. Now my video editor up and runs. I didn't need to install anything, I just had to download the program and run it. There's no setup.exe, there's no needing to install it, it's just there and it's ready to go. So that's one way of also downloading and using applications. So that's a super handy way of enjoying the latest and greatest of applications. So say, like this version here in Kdenlive is 19.08. If I was to look for it here in the Software Center, if I can spell, so if I look at Kdenlive in the Software Center, I see the Snap version is running almost the most recent version. But if I was to be looking at the native app, this has a much older version on it. How and where you want to install packages and applications from is up to you. My point I'm trying to express in this video is that there are options, and depending on what your needs are and which version of Linux you're running, in this case with Ubuntu, having choices based on your needs is one of the things that makes free software great. So the final thing I want to talk about is updating. Using the updates method is more than fine, and that will allow you to look at, for the most part, at any new updates to your system. But the preferred method is actually to go into the activities overview and to use this updater right here, this software updater application. Left clicking that will open it up, and it's going to do a more thorough search for any system updates. And that's, as you can see, one of the reasons that this is recommended is because when I used the Ubuntu software updater to check for updates and I refreshed it, it told me the software is up to date. But in fact, using the software updater, it's telling me that there is in fact quite a few updates that need to be done, including parts to the Ubuntu base, the system updates. So when you're updating your system, you want to use the software updater here, not the updates here in the software center. So when it shows you that you have updates available, all you need to do is click on Install Now at the bottom right here. And it's going to load the software list. It's going to download all of the new updates to your system. And once the download is finished, they'll begin installing. And it's done. So once it's completed, it'll show you that the software on this computer is up to date. If there is an upgrade, meaning there's a later version that's been released, it'll give you the option to upgrade to that newer version. And you can click on that. If you do, just out of precaution, make sure that you do back up all of your personal data and personal documents. It's not necessary, and it's probably me being paranoid, but it's a better safe than sorry measure. It's just something throughout the years that I've made a good habit of doing, and that way if something went wrong, well, then no big deal. Usually nowadays these are pretty seamless, but back in the day these upgrades weren't the most spectacular and resulted in an unfortunate loss of data. But again, that's mostly old stuff, nothing too bad to worry about there. So now that it's updated, you can click OK, and your system's up to date. So thanks for watching. Appreciate it if you give this video a like before moving on to the next video, and check out the next one, which is how to customize Ubuntu, one of people's favorite things, to make it their own. Check it out.